Have you seen Clint Eastwood's film Letters from Iwo Jima?
I have, and I was very impressed with it. I thought it was a wonderful evocation, and it's very important sometimes to turn around and understand that the enemy that you've so demonized, and in war it's necessary to demonize it. That's how you get teenagers to go and fight that other, is by making them such an ugly and different other. And it was very important to turn them around and show an essential humanity in all people. War is the lie of civilization. It's the failure of civilization, and it is the fault of everyone. I mean, obviously, in the Second World War, we can point to the belligerents and say the Nazis were bad, and they were, and the Japanese were bad. They did, both of them, horrible crimes, and we were on the right. We were the good guys, and we were. But once you get into war, what happens is a horrible, horrible thing that takes place. Those lines blur.
Has working on this film changed your views of war at all?
You know, I thought going into the Civil War that I'd be making an anti-war film. That wasn't the case. That was a war that had to be fought. I had no such pretensions going into this one, but I began to just, in both ways, I grieved for the fact that human beings go into war that seem to propel themselves into belligerent stances, defensive postures, and then outright hostilities. And at the same time, again, I was faced with another, as we say, necessary war that had to be fought. And I only hope that all of us will always give pause. There's something in the human breast that got really excited. It's felt in the Civil War. People turned out to picnic and watch the war. I thought it'd be over in a few days, it'd be great. And of course, it was the worst war in American history. And then you have the Second World War, and there's this excitement, this drumbeat to go to war, or today. And I think people just have to be reminded of the cost. Let's just make sure that when we make that horrible, ultimate decision to go to war, that we're absolutely sure that this is the right thing to do.
Is this film still with you?
Oh, my goodness, it'll be with me the rest of my life. The people, the connections that we made to people, I love them so much. They feel like family members to me, and I hope that the way we've shared their stories with the rest of you, that you'll feel the same thing, that you'll feel a kind of connection, a kinship of the soul with the people that are in this film.
Do you go back and rethink your films and think, boy, I should have added this, or if I could only, you know, enhance it in this particular way?
You know, I know a lot of filmmakers who do that, and they sometimes even re-edit. To me, these old films are like a scrapbook. You know, maybe, you know, you had that unfortunate wide collar where you had a little beer belly that you wished you could get rid of, but you don't tear that picture out of the album. You say, that's how I was. So I look at these films, and I fortunately work in public television that permits me to make the films I want. And then at the end, I get to say it's over. And if it's over, then we just, that's it. And I can go back and look at it and say, yeah, I think I've gotten better as a filmmaker, but that's an accurate snapshot of who I was as an artist back then.
You said once that you consider baseball and jazz to be sequels to the Civil War.
Yes, I do.
Do you think all of your films are really sequels to each other in a
Well,
sense?
no, I think that those were interesting way. I mean, they were united by the theme of the Constitution, baseball, and jazz being the great improvisatory gestures, the Constitution's greatest failure being the Civil War and finally the end of slavery. I see all of the films as asking the same question, who are we? And they're more like patches in a quilt. They're all interrelated, and you begin to see that the threads, the warp and woof of how things are, blend into the various films. And so there's not really distinctions. These films have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and you can watch them on their own. But I think as you step back from all of them or get a chance to see them all, you begin to see the interrelationship between them, and you begin to appreciate that we are all connected together, and that is in the end the purpose of it. The historian Arthur Schlesinger, who just died, said something that I've been using for years. He said, we suffer today in America from too much pluribus and not enough unum, referring to the Latin motto of the United States. If I had to say there's one thing that my work has been about over these last 30 years, it's been about unum, trying to figure out how we can come back together from this fractured society that we find ourselves in, where we're so quick on the draw, quick to shoot first and ask questions later, so quick to judge the other when they're so similar to ourselves. And I think history is one of the medicines that helps you heal you from that kind of disease. We yearn for community, and almost everything in our daily lives is the opposite direction. We've got 500 channels and nothing's on. We live in our gated communities. We think that if we buy things, everything will be all right. And we forget that the sustaining things, the love of the other, the relationships that we have, won't take care of us, and of course they will.
As you look back on your films, as you look to the future, are you optimistic about this country?
I have to be. I love my country. I don't know anyone who loves their country more than me. And so I have to remain optimistic. Sometimes as you see what's happening, you know, the tide of anti-Americanism that's in not just our enemies, but among our allies, you begin to despair a little bit. But you can't stop, you can't give up. We have important epic verses that we still are to sing as a great nation does, and I look forward to trying to sing those.
Ken, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on
Thank you.
TheWar. It's a wonderful film. And thank all of you for joining us on Writing Out Loud.